Hello and welcome back to an all-time high episode of Crypto, my God. Like, oh my God, in the best way. None of that sad, oh my God. We are in it to win it. And with Bitcoin going past $110,000, it's like, damn, these are just things I literally never imagined back in the day. So it's all pretty exciting. Now, we've got some good evolution, some good news. I'm going to hop right into it. Bang. I want to kick it off with something that has been a long nuisance and kind of just honestly a bit of pure insanity, which is the tax treatment of tokens. As it currently stands, every token is treated like a stock, like a security, that when you sell it, when you transfer it, you pay either short-term or long-term capital gains. Now, this really doesn't make sense in a digital economy, right? Applying this to paper stocks, sure. Short-term gains versus long-term gains, like are you a day trader or are you a long-term investor? That is the crux of this. Basically, when you're a day trader, you pay taxes that are equivalent to an income tax. That is how this offsets basically what people that trade professionally versus long-term investors that are doing 401ks, et cetera, et cetera. So that is kind of the crux of how securities are treated on the tax bill. Now, taking that and applying it to digital, where these tokens and these assets can move at the speed of data, it becomes ridiculous. And when we look at things like staking, I mean, taking Ethereum and staking it into Lido and receiving ST-ETH, it's the same asset. You just logged into the application. This is like signing into Netflix. And this will be true of any smart contract you put it into. So if I take capital and I move it into a liquidity pool, right, where the smart contract is doing things automatically, I will be issued a receipt token. Liquidity pools make receipt tokens. This is how the blockchain tracks your holdings. So there's always going to be a swap of some sort. And for the tax man to be like, oh, well, that's short-term gains. I mean, you could hold Ethereum for 10 years and maybe come in and out of staking for whatever reason or change staking providers. That makes a lot of sense. And here we have it with Solana, Jito, the Lido, the staking solution of Solana. And they are pushing forward on US tax laws, bringing this up and taking the very expensive obligation to get this looked at and to get this hopefully one day changed. Now, as laid out by the analysis of the Jito staking pool, we have the classic legal team of Fenwick and West. So they're pretty big trad law. You know, they haven't really been the best towards crypto people. So, I mean, I'm not super excited to see that name being engaged, but, you know, I'll take what I can get. And going forward, again, these are costly things. So Fenwick, not cheap. These are some of the most expensive lawyers that you can hire. They made it big by representing Facebook back in the day. And when you're looking at corporate law, they're a name to be reckoned with. So to take this and to go up against the UX tax laws, it's going to be an onerous task. It's going to be very expensive. And all of this is to say that Jito is taking it upon themselves to say, hey, staking Solana under Jito, going from Sol to Jito Sol, it's the same fucking asset, guys. This is not a taxable event. Again, it's like logging into an application. So this is hugely positive for the tax treatment of crypto coins, which quite frankly is still mania. I mean, I personally think the swapping of assets should just be whatever, and you can deal with your profits and losses at the end of the day. And those can be treated in long-term or short-term if you want. But for something that is so well accounted for, like the blockchain, the accounting of it is actually a complete and total tire fire, which has always been a bit of a nuisance. Now, another update sort of on the regulatory side, again, that's what this cycle is doing. This cycle is about the acceptance of crypto by broader society. This means regulations that allow builders to build. This means new laws that allow how we treat the taxes, right? Everything about this ecosystem is now being appreciated that it's not going anywhere. So now we need to start looking at it and setting the foundation for a real industry. And one exciting thing, CFTC's Mersinger crypto perpetual futures could trade in US. This is super important. Poly market, the predictions market that was very prominent in the elections of Trump versus Biden, they actually got raided by the FBI. My friend Shane, who is the CEO of that product, woke up one day to the windbreakers busting into his home. Now, the whole thing about this was that the CFTC said they were operating illegal futures markets on US soil. This is something that's been pretty difficult, and it's why assets like Hyperliquid, who I've talked about today, one of the single greatest projects that a user can purchase, is unavailable to U.S. citizens. When you log on to the website, it has a geofence for anyone in the U.S., and the trading functionalities are kiboshed. However, this change from the CFTC could mean that we see Hyperliquid coming to the US. And why is this a bummer, right? Not only is it about this geofenced access, but the Hype asset itself is one of the juiciest from the investment side in the entire industry. And the assumption is you cannot get it as a US citizen. So it's wild to say the US wants to be a frontier player in the cryptocurrency development in the blockchain space, and yet one of the single greatest standout assets of the cycle is unavailable to US citizens. This was true of Binance's BNB for the longest time until they opened Binance US, as well as a variety of other assets. I mean, geofencing the US has been a consistent trend of major players, and it culminates in what I find to be the most furious, which is airdrops, where teams can actually accept user funds to grow and help bootstrap their product, and then they refuse to airdrop the rewards because they say US compliance reasons. This is exploitation to the user base. Gary Gensler notoriously protected the US citizens from millions of dollars of free airdrops. I mean, it's absurd. If you say you want to protect the downside, an airdrop is free money. They're a bootstrapping tool where they distribute the tokens. It helps with decentralization, but there is no downside. You're not paying anything. So even if it goes to zero, you're still okay. It's like no harm, no foul. However, Hyperliquid, for example, people made over 6 figures in that airdrop. All you had to do was use the protocol, and they dropped what was worth over $100,000 to people. Unless you were in the US, then you did not get any of that. So this is a movement towards inclusion that is fundamental for US citizens, but also means that we can see the scale of these very successful products. If you remember from some of my DeFi episode, perpetuals and perps are the biggest cash cow after stablecoins in the entire industry. And bringing them to the US, I mean, this means that we could get US products. They could come under US compliance, meaning that we could actually increase safety and access all at the same time. So this is pretty cool. Now, to get into a little bit more like, the fun, the drama, the live action that plays out on chain, following Mario Narfall. I don't love the dude because he's very much a meme machine, but he's had a really good coverage on this Hyperliquid whale. So what's going on here is that this whale recently opened a massive Bitcoin long position. As of yesterday, it was worth over $1 billion coming from a single person, this $1 billion long. And you can follow it on chain, and it's just been an absolute trip. There is another whale going short funded by Binance, comically enough. That short position is down like $80 million. It's not doing too well. But as we go farther into this, they've actually identified top trader James Wynn Real's 40x leverage Bitcoin position has now exceeded 10,000 Bitcoins or 1.1 billion. So that's kind of nuts. Now, of course, you can come in here, bang in his address, and we can actually see it in real time, right? We can follow every trade on Hyperliquid itself, and that $1 billion position now down to a paltry 91 million. Of course, this is a 40x leverage, so he's got 1/40th of these assets on the line, and if it goes down below, I think $103,000, he loses all of that money. That's what's coming out here. But he's been up, he's been re-upping, and this is where blockchain gets exciting. Where else in the world, what other markets do you have a public bet of this magnitude that's on display? I mean, traditional Wall Street would be like, why would I ever want someone to know my position, right? Chances are James could be hedging somewhere more private than this. You don't really want everyone to know your trade, right? Then they can counter trade. It's not the smoothest thing in the world, but this is what happens in the blockchain space. And it's so fascinating that we can actually follow each transaction that he makes. Just a fun little ditty on James Wynn Real. And of course, you can follow him on Twitter here, and he's talking about the whole thing. So, it's a whole new world, and it's nuts. Now, we have to come back to the bond market. I talked about it briefly yesterday. It was rising. It did come back a little bit today. The 20-year bonds taking a bit of a breather. But Ray Dalio says that we should be afraid of it. This is the signal we need to look at sort of the collapse of the USDC dominance. This could be good for crypto. Historically, crypto's traded in line with the markets, but everything is beginning for really the first time in my life to say, hey, this could splinter off as a different asset. And when I say that, it's one, that blockchains have continued to function and function seamlessly. I mean, Bitcoin and Ethereum continue to produce blocks. So no matter what's happening with the price, the blocks keep ticking. And that shows us that the technology is for real. The second factor is that Wall Street has gotten on board and they're buying enough Bitcoin to basically say, hey, we can support this narrative of the schism of value. And maybe Bitcoin really is a store of value. And we're going to throw not only our reputational weight, but our money behind it. So this is all pretty fascinating. And it's something that we're going to have to pay attention to regarding the macro in the world right now. The bond market is where the juice is coming from in this global trade war squeeze. Now, last but not least, I'd just like to stay on top of the US state reserves. We've now got two of them, getting into full Bitcoin enacted, and that's pretty excited with Arizona and Texas. But the fact that we do keep seeing these things march forward again, guys, all of the big buys right now, these treasury reserve things that I've been talking about, they're on corporate treasury sheets. We are yet to see the domino effect of what happens when states start to purchase. And of course, the creme de la creme when the federal government starts to purchase. Alex Thorne of Galaxy Digital actually put together a nice list of how these Bitcoins could be purchased in a cash neutral way, right? Without actually spending citizen dollars, which is the goal. I don't think any citizen should be buying Bitcoin out of their own dollars. They can do that of their own free will, for fuck's sake. But we are taking one step further. And of course, so go the states, maybe so goes the country, and so goes the United States of America. I mean, the whole world will get behind this. So these are truly exciting times. I mean, every day we're just taking giant leaps forward, not only in price, which is where a lot of the exuberance comes from, right? Nobody hates making money, right? But we are seeing the foundations, the regulations, the laws, the tax treatments, the reality, the nitty gritty, the shit that makes adulthood suck is finally coming to crypto. And there's not an SEC chair that can keep saying the rules are sufficient, just come in and register. The damage of that line, just come in and register, was a high executive permission to every other regulatory body in the United States to say, hey, don't even look at making benefits. Don't even look at making changes. We're not going to augment the system. The system is fine as it is, but we know the system sucks. And we can see this because Kraken just announced that they're going to start trading equities on chain. Banks and major funds and equity providers are already looking at L2s and Solana. What is guaranteed at this point is that stocks, anything that trades, will be on chain eventually. I don't find that to be very interesting. I think it's a given. The tech is simply superior. It's on 24/7, it's permissionless, and anyone can access it and build upon it. However, putting the stock market on chain, is that really exciting? No, the stocks are going to continue to trade the same way that they do. The chain doesn't change anything about that. Well, maybe except for a 24/7 nature, but frankly speaking, Wall Street was moving in that direction with after hours, and that was available only to this cabal of entities that were allowed to trade within those time zones. So definitely going to happen. Blockchain is here. It's winning. It's kicking the doors in. Now it's on to the developers, to the next generation to start building use cases that are just like, oh my God, I didn't think we could do that with value. And again, that trading in parallel universes idea, I thought that was pretty cool, right? Can we just splinter the accounting trail and create imaginary accounting trails in the future, collapsing them upon reality? We think the predictions markets are very much in line with this kind of idea. Obviously, seeing futures markets come to the US to get better regulation, clearer rules about how they can operate, all of this is going to allow the next generation of builders to build that crazy fucking shit without having to risk going to jail. And that's a big deal because in my generation of builders were taking a massive risk. They followed Satoshi into combating the entire financial ecosystem, where the money flows to. And Satoshi's success was so great because he disappeared, because he was never there to be a punching bag to assault. Now, everybody else after that, they weren't quite able to pull off what he pulled off. Maybe they weren't the right artists for this creation, but there was a lot of risk in building these pieces of technology that challenge the status quo, especially the status quo around money and people who have it. Very dangerous to go up against people that can pay these lawyers who are very expensive like it's nothing. And I try to give you these tidbits because altogether, everything that I talk about day in and day out is piecing into this whole of this era that we're in right now, this epoch where the world, it can no longer ignore what's being built here. AI is only going to exaggerate that. All AI agents will trade on chain. It simply speaks the same language. AI there's not going to be a need for these ridiculous Web2 fintech companies that we've been having traditionally. Things like Zelle, things like Venmo, things like PayPal are actually just nice computer user interfaces that cover a really big mess of paper trail and work. I mean, DocuSign has like 18,000 workers, right? All you do is you sign a document and it feels digital, but they have to print out every piece of paper. Again, the legacy systems are nuts. And now we are breaking through and we are having day by day these growth periods where this whole epoch is coming together, where the true adoption is either happening or being set up to happen. And I can't, everything from the taxing from Jito Sol to perpetuals coming online in the US to watching independent traders trade these perps at scale. I mean, all of this, it contributes to the lore of what will ultimately become the future. So to be in this industry is just to be hit over the head time and time again with scams, with complete BS. But there are these moments of clarity, these moments of glory, and we are in one right now. We will be able to step back on these years and say, yeah, this was one period. Right now, while we're in it, every day we're moving towards something huge. But again, it takes many slices to make a whole pie, and that's what we're moving towards. And it's truly exciting if you know where to look. My hopes are that I can bring that to you and just point at it and say, hey, look here. Because honestly, it's what I see on TV, CNBC, Fox, whatever, they still don't get it. They're too old. It's confusing. And they're missing the deep technical parts. Like half of this industry is computer science nerds. Half of this industry is game theoretic nerds. Half of it is legal nerds. Half of it is execution nerds. And that is all coming together. These are massive decentralized computer systems like what Uber operates, but operating on a consensus layer so that anyone can participate, whether you're a kid in Africa or a major data center provider here in the US. The goal is that we can take advantage of the brilliance of anyone, the sweat equity of anyone, and that at the end of the day, these open source pieces of technology that we all rely on are there for anyone to open up and verify. And that is so unique to the human system, to physics itself, which does favor centralization, right? Gravity collects mass, masses become stars, stars become solar systems give us life. This decentralization narrative is fighting against physics itself. And it is only successful through the coordination desires of humanity and its participants. And it's been hard. We've tried to coordinate. Like in the DAO, we got exploited. We've lost so much money. Everyone I know has lost so much in one way or another due to scams, exploits, illegal actors, or in my instance, even people that you're very close to just straight up rug pulling you. You know what it's like to have a friend just sort of alter their opinion and screw you over for their own benefit? I think everyone that works in my space has some semblance of that. So as I ramble, I just want to bring it all back to say this is truly an exciting time. All of these things are coming together to make something bigger than what we've seen before. We will have a free internet that cannot be controlled by the powers that be, that can extend beyond our planet as we go to a spacefaring community, as we go to a spacefaring society, and can offer all of humanity the same consistent services. No racism, no sexual bias, no classism. The protocol will say, if you have $1, I will take that dollar from you and I will allow you to earn. And in this way, we are revolutionizing money, one of the core tenets of society, in a way that we haven't seen since the Venetians came up with the receipt. So I think it's awesome. I hope you think it's awesome. That is my goal here, is to keep it being awesome. And as always, stay safe. And I don't think I'll see you tomorrow, but I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Much love.